coming, Jacob. Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Another week here in the garage. We're back. The holidays are over. Thanksgiving was delicious this year.
Survived Turkey Day.
Yeah. 3 to 4 days of constant turkey, and we're back here in the garage. I'm Buzz Rankin.
I am the Common Patriot, who, by the way, forgot to put up the Thanksgiving video.
I hate when that happens, because I recorded a little segment, and, well, it was on Facebook.
We put it on Facebook.
So those of you that went over and checked us out on Facebook, good job there.
Slacker.
Yeah, Patriot was to blame on that one, so going to take a little drink out of my Buzz mug.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, Garage Politics coffee mugs. Boy, I took that one right out of the scene there.
I like the way you swung that one around.
Yeah, you like that? It's just kind of swinging. With that said,
nice.
Let's swing on over and show you. You can go to www.garagepolitics.com or .net if you're nostalgic, and go check us out. There's all kinds of fun links to all our social media, archives, everything you need to know about the Garage Kings. Head on over to Rumble. Give us a like, give us a listen, a follow, so we can go live once we reach our amount of listeners.
100 viewers on Rumble.
100 viewers. I keep saying listeners. It's a habit.
We're about a third of the way there.
You know, it's a habit from all the years that we did that, and it was all just radio. You know, no one got to see this.
Well, that's why I said I keep referring to everybody as listeners, and it's viewers.
And just in case anybody's wondering, right there is subliminal Trump. So he's right there.
He's tiny.
He's tiny.
He's tiny Trump.
It's all subliminal. It's going to your head. So, with that said, we're excited this week. It was a nice holiday, and hopefully everybody out there had a great holiday. We got more coming, of course. Christmas coming up. So, just as a reminder, on the holidays, especially since Patriot's family coming in town, my family coming in town, we got a lot going on around the holidays, guys. We may miss a show or two, but we'll be back. We'll be back in 2023, but for now, we got a couple shows before that comes up.
Yes.
So,
we may get a chance to rock the new studio set up in 2023.
We may, though, because actually Patriot and I have off of work the same exact time, and that gives us opportunity to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yes, it'll be fun.
Sorry, I was looking down. I just realized I silenced the phone, forgot to silence the watch, and I'm sitting here and I'm hearing ding. I'm like, no, that's bad. That's bad stuff.
Nice.
So with that said, I got a special little segment tonight.
Go for it, man.
So what we're going to do is do a little segment that I like to call JDT. That's right. Joe did that.
I like that. That's got great possibilities.
Doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I like it. For all our viewers, I'm sure you're going to like that too. So what we're going to do is we're going to start tonight. Let's see. Where is... I always got to sit here and I'm playing with my Stream Deck to get going what we're going to do here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a comparison tonight. And we're going back just a simple 2 years. 2 years ago. 2 years ago, before old Sleepy Joe came into office and started things. So we're going to go over just a few things that Joe did. So let's look at the first thing on my list, which is airfare. Okay? So airfare, as you can see there, the inflation rate from 2020 to 2022, just in 2 short-term years of... Goober McGee over there running things up there with his, full Democratic house.
Mr. Build Back Better.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Build Back Better. Well, the airfare went up 29.84%. 2020, you could get pretty much airfare for around $200 per person each way. Mm-hmm. Now the average is $259.68.
It's wonderful.
Isn't that great?
Life is so much better for us.
And you know what? I bet you can guess who did that.
Joe did that.
Biden did that. That's right. There's good old Trump pointing out who did that.
I always like that picture of him.
I actually got a bunch of stickers like that every once in a while when the pumps started going, and just stick it right there next to the price so that everybody could see that. So, well, let's go to the next area, because the next area impacts everybody. I mean, who doesn't love bacon and eggs? Bacon and eggs. Bacon, 23.71%. Eggs, 29.97% increase. Back in 2020, you could get like a pound of bacon for on the average of about $7.
And that's nationwide, right?
Nationwide. Yeah. This is nationwide, guys. You can't just count it in Florida or in your state. These are national averages. So in 2020, you could get a pound of bacon for roughly right around $7. Now it's about $8.66 a pound on average. In some places, it's size $12 and $13 a pound. It's like, what the heck?
You know, I see this stuff all the time on the news. Well, not on the regular news, but I see it at places where I get my news at. And when you see something like if you took the percentage off of there, right, and you were looking at it and you're going, all right, it's more expensive, but it's $1, it's $1.50 more.
It adds
right?
up.
But when you put the percentage there, it sort of gets more real because you start thinking when you run that across your living expenses on a weekly, monthly, right, basis, you're thinking, dude, I'm paying 20 to 30% more.
Well, and we all know who did that.
Right.
Joe did that. Joe did that.
Joe did that.
And if you could throw in there, beef, 15.72% over the past 2 years. Butter, 16.92%. Chicken, 19.8%. Coffee, 16.17%. Domestically produced farm food, okay, which is what is it?
Your produce.
Stuff like that. Yeah. 14.17%.
Sure.
Fresh fruit, 14%. Lunch meat, 16.3%. Milk, 16.9%. Peanut butter, 15.9%. Pork, 17.9%. Think about that, guys. I just read a whole list. These are all things that you buy unless you're a tree-hugging, rabbit food-eating wackadoo, But even at that, you're still paying higher prices there. It doesn't matter.
Just put it in context, right? Think about us growing up.
Yep.
Right? Mom and dad, 2 boys to raise. And so your grocery bill was already ridiculous, right? You were already spending. Mom talks about the prices and stuff. She had to go out and buy things in bulk, try to figure out ways to get, so that that's one of the reasons we ate a lot of spaghetti and stuff like that. But if you've got 2, 3, 4 kids, whatever, average family, couple of kids or whatever, and you're feeding your family, man, a 20 or 30% increase just in your grocery bill. Never mind all of the other stuff that's costing you more money. A 30% increase in your grocery bill screws up your monthly budget for your family.
Well, let's go look at the next one. The next one, energy. 52.94%.
Dude, is that right?
It is. So on average energy, about $100 in 2020. It's gone up to $153. Now, I rounded that. It's $152.94 on average.
But still, that's going to be brutal this winter, dude, for families in the
Northeast.
Now,
let's expand upon that. So electricity, which all of this wraps into energy. So you got to think about
that's across the board.
That's across the board.
Energy.
That's
so
all
coal,
energy.
Oil.
But if you break it down, electricity, 17% increase. Electricity. Let's see. What's the other one? Propane, kerosene, firewood. 43.11%. That's the one that's going to impact these people in the cold and everything like that.
Think about that for a second, though, because that group you just mentioned, right?
Yes.
What was it? Propane, wood, and natural gas?
Kerosene, firewood. So in the energy is still your natural gas and stuff like that.
Those three. Think about the primary locations for that usage.
Northeast.
Right? Well, not just the Northeast, but also you're going to tend to find those more in rural areas where
you
don't have natural gas available, where you don't have, So you're going to find the folks that are up north getting hit by the cold,
out in the Midwest, stuff like that.
Out in the Midwest, where you're out in a not quite a suburban area, which is the groups that the Joe and his buddies don't care for.
Hey, Dems.
Joe did that.
Yep.
And he's proud of it, too.
He is. And all of you people that are up there in those Democratic states, keep that in mind this winter. Enjoy.
And especially since they just voted for his peeps again, for the most part.
You got to love it. Next, used vehicles. 45.56%.
That's
used vehicles. For every $10,000 spent on used vehicles, it's now on average $14,555.79.
And it shows too, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I was out looking for used vehicles.
You were
Trust me, I'm right in the
just
middle
a week ago. You were out there, so
it's crazy.
You used to be able to pick up a really nice used car for right around $16,000. No, not anymore. Those things are about $25,000, $27,000, $28,000 for
it's outrageous.
decent used car. We're not even talking one with loaded options and everything.
The crazy part is people are selling it. Remember how we always talk about people are really proud of their stuff? Man, people are really proud of some real crummy cars.
Oh, yeah. New cars have gone up 16.4%.
Wow. So. And now, part of that 45% on the used vehicles has been the fact that people, when you get that inflation on the new vehicles, which, when you're talking about a car that's already $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, 16% is a big deal.
It is.
That's created a higher rate of increase in the prices in the used market because people are running out to grab the used vehicles thinking they're going to save money.
No.
It's crazy.
And we know who did that.
Yeah.
Biden did that.
Biden did that.
That's
wow. Hey, I like this segment. This is kind of cool. Can we get one for Nancy did that too? I'd like to.
We'd like to see that.
We need some Nancy.
And I figured we'd finish off this segment with the big one. Gas, 84.39%. Now, guys, this is on average across all of them. This is the 87, 89, 93 diesel. This is an average amongst all of them because if you go and look just unleaded, you're going to go, oh, he's misquoting it. No, today on AAA, just unleaded is at 3.54. But if you add in all the other fuels and everything, your national average in this year is $3.69. We were paying $2 to $2.15 on a national average just 2 years ago before Dopehead took office.
I know for a fact, I'm certain of it because I was looking at it and I used to have to make an hour commute every day to work. When Trump was in office, at one point, I remember paying $1.70, $1.60, something like that for gas here in Florida. And I know that it was ticking up a little bit in 2020 because of the whole COVID thing.
Well,
and there was
in
craziness
reality,
going
he had some low points. But look, earlier, just so I had my facts straight, I went and looked this up. I looked during his term.
Yeah.
From the time he took office.
Yes.
Which actually was a little higher. The average was a little higher than when he took office from when Obama was in there.
Yeah.
Okay. When he took office, his average stayed over his 4-year. It went as high as about 270 at one point.
Right.
It never went above 3. And it hovered. His actual average during his whole term was right around that 220 mark.
Yeah.
220.
But you're right, because I know that 369 number that you're showing right there.
Yep.
It was not that long ago here. A couple of weeks back, I went and filled up. It was 358.
Yep.
Something along those lines.
And like I said, that's playing into factor. Diesel, all the different.
Well, that was regular.
So that's 87 regular, 89 a little bit up, 93 the Supreme. So it's counting all of those, and it's going in with all of that. And
any way you look at it, it's bad.
It is, and Biden did that.
Well, and you
know what? I mean, Biden really did that.
They've been putting out preparatory statements, I guess, letting people know. It looks like we might have a problem getting diesel here coming up soon.
That's what happened when you come into office and shut down the Keystone Pipeline. He did have a little help, though.
Yeah, she helped.
Yeah. You asked for it, you got it.
Nice.
So there she is. But
I helped.
But, we've been talking about this for weeks, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a segment on Joe did that. I mean, guys.
I like it.
You could go look it up. Once again, we were talking just the other day, over the weekend, while we were hanging out, playing some card games and doing some stuff. And I said, the left doesn't want to hear this. The left doesn't want to see this. And they're going to sit there going, oh, they're exaggerating. They're not exaggerating, guys. These are numbers that you could go right over to the government websites, look these numbers up. None of them are fabricated or inflated or anything. These are actual figures, guys. Yeah. These are things that you all could go and check out yourself. You don't need, us to tell you what's going on here or anything like that.
I'm looking at the numbers and everything, and I know because you and I both, we love our music, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at your report, and I'm thinking, it'd be awesome if in the background, real low, you were playing the Billy Joel song "Honesty."
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Honesty.
Yeah, it would be great. Of course, they'd ban our video if we put that up there. And Billy Joel would pitch a fit because he's such a lefty.
Yep.
Anyway.
But that's it for JDT on this week's Garage Politics. With that, I think it's almost time to head on over to a little constitutional moment.
Yeah, man.
That's always a good thing.
Hey, we're going to change the music for this next week.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
Wait a second. Did you run that by the producer?
I'd like to. Could we?
We're going to change the music next week. Well, great.
Look
Just
at me.
take my seat.
I'm
you
just
know.
going
You're
off
gonna
making
come on
proclamations.
next week. You're going to watch the show, and Patriot's going to be sitting in both seats and be like, "Hi,
No.
I'm the Common Patriot. I'm
No.
the Common Patriot."
No, I don't know how to use. I don't know how to use the software. Sorry.
I got a computer. I got a little deck over here. I've got this little equipment over here. We've got all kinds of stuff, and it's like, and he's the geek.
Yeah,
that knows this
that's not
stuff.
going to happen. We're not putting the. We're not
Yes,
putting
we
the
can
Patriot.
look into music. You know, we can do whatever you want to.
Cool, man.
Good things.
So the year's on its last legs, right? We are now,
To say the least.
we are now officially into the lame duck Congress, expecting all kinds of horrific things going on. They are going to try for all they're worth. Did you hear Biden make a comment
I don't
the
know.
other day?
I've heard a lot of Biden here lately.
Well, they want the gun bans. They want the gun. They want confiscation.
Yes.
But Biden actually said the other day, I've watched a couple of different videos of it, and I've seen him doing it. Said we're going to ban most semi-automatic weapons. Now, I've had a couple of people who said, "Oh, I think he meant automatic weapons." I'm like, no. I think they want the semi-automatic weapons. They
Which
would
is
prefer that we use
pretty
muskets.
much all weapons that civilians have.
That one, you know what? On your little note thing or your war board or whatever,
Oh, I'm not there yet. I'll get
we
there.
need to do, and we'll get to it eventually as we crawl through the Constitution, but we need to get to a
Let me
discussion
head on
on the
over
Second
there.
Amendment, because I have what many of the people that I have associated with through the course of my life would probably feel is a moderately radical view. That was an oxymoron. I've got a pretty radical view about that when it comes to this, because I listen to people talking on the news. I heard it today on a couple of radio shows, people referring to this whole thing about the Second Amendment, and they were talking about how referring again to the idea that we needed these, and when it comes to banning magazines and this, and somebody made a comment about, well, look, we don't have automatic weapons. We should. We absolutely should have automatic weapons. We should have. And I had some smart aleck one time said to me when I was talking to him about this. He said, "Oh, so I guess you think it'd just be okay for an everyday citizen to own an F-15? You're damn right I do. If you can afford it,
Yeah, if you can buy it.
if you can afford it, absolutely."
I want 50 cal.
I'm slightly more restrictive on nuclear weapons. I don't have a problem.
Yeah, that's
having
a whole
nuclear
different
weapons.
thing. Firearms.
But when it comes to it, you want an M1 tank? If you can afford one, get it.
Yeah.
Why? We sell that stuff to third world dictators and other nations
that
around the
hate
planet
us and
that hate us.
despise
Why
us.
would you be afraid to give it to an American citizen?
Exactly.
I mean, anyway, we won't go down that rabbit
No,
hole.
not
I'll
today.
screw up my
Not to-
whole.
Don't do it. Don't do it, because we'll get fired up on the second appeal.
5 pages of
Second
notes.
Amendment.
We're getting through them this
And
time.
I promise I won't get you signed.
Yeah, you will. Sooner or later, you will.
Yeah, I know.
So let's
It
go.
happens.
All right, constitutional amendment. Small bite this week. This is tiny. And remember, we did Article 1, Section 1
Chew
two,
on it.
2 weeks ago, right? We're going to do Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1. 2 clauses in Section 2. We're going to do Clause 1.
Just because.
Just because.
All right. Shh.
Dude, you are horrible.
Let's stop.
You're So, actually, there's more than...
And when we get closer to the holiday, we'll talk about the Santa Claus.
More than 2 clauses. We're actually going through the first part of the first one. So,
Excellent.
Anyway.
All right. Move along.
Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states. Now, I'm going to finish the first part, the second part of Clause 1. And say, finish it with, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. All right. We're going to focus on that first part. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states.
2 years.
Okay. So let's go there. So
Let's do it.
Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1. Now, I told you, and I remind everybody because it's what I do. Heritage Guide to the Constitution, right, from heritage.org. Edwin Meese III was...
You got one of those right there. Look
I
at that.
got it right here. I've
It's
had
right
this
there.
one for years. I think there's another edition or two.
There's all kinds
later
of
on of
underlines
it,
in there, too.
right?
It's like a family Bible.
Well, what I love about this, I commented before, is you get the text, but you get commentary from various constitutional scholars, judges, and other people who understand not just the Constitution, but understand the original intent. The founders have studied this. So anyway, it's interesting information. It's good stuff, right?
Okay.
So I took the liberty of making a few notes for myself to work on this. So
sorry, I licked my cup right on air.
It's okay, man. You're good.
Okay. All right, you go, bro.
So let's go through this here. So 3 issues in there, right? Length of terms, equal versus proportional representation of the states, and method of selection, right?
Okay.
So if you read it again, House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year, right?
Right.
So length of terms, right? Every second year by the people of the several states. The 2-year term of office, all right, it's pretty straightforward, okay? But it was actually the result of a compromise. There were some in Congress wanted a 2-year, some wanted a 3-year. I'll go ahead and lay it out rather than waiting and sort of digging through most of it. There were also discussions about how the representation was going to be handled, right? There were those that were arguing that both houses should be selected by the states. In the case of the House, they said the state should appoint the representatives based on candidates selected by the people as opposed to directly elected by the people. And that is a difference, by the way. And I've mentioned before, and this is where it bears on it, is, you know, when you start talking about the legislature being created, the House is what was set up by the founders, okay?
Okay.
To be elected directly by the people. They wanted it connected directly to the people. Madison and Wilson argued that the selection by the people was necessary to link citizens directly to the new national government. Okay? So it was an important thing for them. And it also, I thought this was an interesting comment, the scope of the phrase, quote, unquote, by the people was neither debated nor defined at the convention. And it wasn't, because this is another one of those things that you have to try to get people to understand when they read this, because it was fully understood what they meant at the time. The founders didn't have any discrepancies between themselves, really, on the people. There were some discussions here by various people commenting on the people of the states versus the entire populace of the country, what have you. But that's where it got down to, you know, them making that selection and making sure that this house of the legislature was connected directly to the people. So it was limited to the people of the state in which they were selecting the representatives. Now, it bears noting, before I get into a couple of these other things, and actually, well, no, let's wait. It's going to come up here in just a few points.
Let's just wait.
No, there was no requirement. Now, this is because I say this because this is an argument all the time, and it was noted in here. There was actually no requirement at the ratification when they did the Constitution to do the elections based on districts.
Right.
Most representatives back during that time were elected sort of as at large, right? So you basically had the people on the ballot, and the ones that won for the election, the top vote getters, those became your representatives, right?
Okay.
This was altered to districts by the Apportionment Act of 1842, okay? They decided to put it into districts. Now, the founders had an issue with what in Great Britain was called rotten boroughs. They had this deal, and this goes to some of the gerrymandering stuff that we do nowadays that the states do, and we've gotten into a little bit of that. But these rotten boroughs were deals where in England they would take these tiny little boroughs with a handful of people and give them a representative. It was political engineering at its finest, right? So you would have a representative that had the exact same power and representation for the people in this little bitty district with a handful of political sycophants as you would have in a big city, right? So you'd have this little borough that would have the same representation as London.
Okay.
And so the founders were cognizant of that, and they didn't want it to become a deal. So they left it to Congress to alter the times, places, and manner of choosing members. And you recall, we made a comment about that the states are responsible for setting the rules for the elections, right?
Yes.
But Congress had some control as to the times, places, and manner of choosing.
Okay. Right.
Now, that comes in because later on, as they go through an evolutionary process on this, which we'll kind of explain a little bit here in a minute, it became important that the Congress have some of that rule, and you'll see where it resolved one of their issues. So the Apportionment Act of 1872 required states to provide for as near as possible to equal population in each district. Now, there was some original language about being, as equal as you could possibly make it, and this 1872 Apportionment Act sets it in law. But the language for that was dropped in 1911 in reapportionment acts that were passed in 1911, and they stopped requiring it to be equal population. Now, in 1962, the Supreme Court in Baker v. Carr said the redistricting question was now justiciable by the courts. Now, I'll take a pause there for a second because you're bound to have noticed at times, I've made comments before that I don't care for the activism of the court sometimes. Now, this is one of those things where I understand, this is something that occurred. It's been going on for a while, but you think about it. That right there, 1962. You're getting close to 200 years since the founding.
Right.
Okay. And it's here that the Supreme Court decides, no, we can handle this. We're going to be in. This is justiciable. This can come to us. When the Constitution,
because that had to do with the redrawing of boundary lines for electoral voting.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
And so you've got this deal where the court steps in and decides you're going to take it. Now, obviously, I'm not the expert on this. I have more reading to do about this. I've begun to get deeper.
That's interesting. I'd like to read that myself, figure that out. That's pretty cool.
I mean, these guys give you good commentary, and like I said, these are political scholars that talk about this.
Okay.
But that to me seems like a fulcrum point, a place where you began to have some shifting of the balance of power and the checks and balances when the courts begin to get actively involved in that question instead of leaving it to the legislature. Now, that's in 62. In 64, 2 years later, the Supreme Court in Westbury v. Sanders held that Article 1, Section 2 required congressional districts to be equal in population, quote, unquote, as nearly as practicable.
Okay.
So now they went back to saying, you're going to have to do this.
You can't have this massive district with this huge population and then have another little district with nowhere near the population.
Now,
so they had to evenly distribute them.
Right. Now, here's the interesting part about the court making that ruling. The experts commented in here that the courts held that Article 1, Section 2 mandated that congressional districts be equal in population as nearly as practicable. In doing so, the court relied heavily on statements made at the Constitutional Convention in favor of representation according to population. Now, I marked this one in red so I wouldn't forget it. These comments, however, were made during debate over the proportional representation of the states in Congress, not the manner in which representatives would be selected according to the first paragraph of Article 1, Section 2.
Interesting.
So the court made a ruling saying the population must be equal. Now, I don't have a problem in agreeing with that, but they made it under false pretenses. They made it based on a statement that was made by the founders that had nothing to do with dividing up the districts when it came to setting the voting districts. Right? So you then had the extension of one person, one vote, in Reynolds v. Sims, and that was based on the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. And there was another one that decided this is basically the same thing, that they were gonna deal with this. And it was interesting to me that very much like when we were talking about the delegation of power, when we were talking about Article 1, Section 1.
Yes.
Remember when we were talking about that?
Yep.
And we said the court had sort of signaled.
I have it marked here.
The court had sort of signaled to everybody saying, don't bring your arguments here. We're not going to vacate these powers. They have the right to delegate these authorities. They have to do it. It's part of the government functioning. They've kind of done the same thing here, okay? They've basically gone to this deal where they've said, we're going to be involved in these. They have had variations in districts
Okay.
as low as 0.013%, okay, where, and I think that one was in Jersey, where the court overturned the district that was drawn, saying that there was a discrepancy between a couple of districts.
We're talking less than 1%.
726 people.
That's
Okay?
that's a little ridiculous.
However, at different times, and I'll make my point about this and we'll get out of the constitutional moment, at different times, the court has upheld state legislative districts with population variances up to 10% with no state justification at all. And it made the note that Gaffney v. Cummings in 1973, variations to nearly 20% are permissible where the state demonstrates a rational basis for its plan, such as drawing districts to follow municipal lines.
Okay.
Okay? Now, final note on this. What that comes down to me is this. I personally think that the text of the Constitution is, again, pretty clear. What you see underneath that is the courts getting involved,
Yes.
pulling power over to their table, saying this is how it goes. And then as you watch it pass through time, the court gets more and more activist about it. And in these cases where you see these wide variations in the percentage of differences in districts that were approved or not approved, to me, that just all smacks of political activism.
I think the courts have gotten to the point to where instead of just upholding the law, they're just rewriting it and using it at their whim, however they want to.
Right. So far be it from me to question these constitutional scholars and everything like that. But I just see that, and we'll finish Clause 2 next week, is the expectation here, and go into the other part of it.
It's an expectation, but it's not to be held because it could go another route.
Well, but I wanted that one to come out because, that just, to me, that was very appropriate following the elections. These arguments over districts, the whole thing about gerrymandering and what have you that goes on, and we argue and we fight about it. But I always find it interesting that when the Democrats are in power in a state and they set the districts and they create these macaroni corkscrew things to get the right makeup of a particular district, that is actually prudent political maneuvering, and it was a good idea, and now you've given equal opportunity and representation to whatever the group of the week is, the flavor of the month, okay? And they do it, and it's all fine because the media cooperates. When we do it, because we're in power, it's evil, it's terrible, it's horrible.
The media cooperates as long as you're hugging trees and licking toads.
Kissing their butt is more like it. Yeah. Anyway, okay, that's it for the constitutional moment this week.
Yeah.
We're
going to rip right into Patriot segment here.
Oh, boy. Totally different.
We want to keep you in stride. Make sure you're just doing what you do, man.
Totally different, man. We're going, this is going to be fun. Oh, this is it?
Are you changing gears?
Well, from the constitutional moment, yes. And I just, right up front and tell you, remember those pages I told you that we didn't get to 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we're going back to them.
Coming back. Got them.
See what happens when Buzz throws him off in a downward spiral in a different direction?
They were not time pertinent, and I had them here, and I'm like, you know what?
I'm off camera. I can drink coffee as much as I want.
It's still viable. All right. So this is really sort of focused on education, but also ties into the overall state of the republic.
And here we go.
There we are. So here's a comment for you. Our citizenry, our people in this country are more uneducated now than ever. Despite
I can believe that.
Despite the advancements in technology, despite the fact that if you were to compare us with the founding generation, the simple fact that we have more advanced technology or more comforts does not make us smarter than them.
Nope.
Not even remotely. We are the dumbest smart people in the history of the planet.
Smart people.
Well, that is unequivocal. I make absolutely no qualifications for that. Our generations, our current generations alive, the people on this planet, we are the dumbest smart people in the history of the human race, without question. I told you a couple of weeks ago, was it 3 weeks ago when I told everybody to watch Idiocracy? If you've watched it since then, you understand. If you haven't watched it, watch it and be ready for when we go live. So Why? Why do we have this problem? And this ties exactly with my statement a couple of weeks ago about being more politically active locally, about getting more involved, about holding people's feet to the fire, and changing how we live our lives day to day, not just griping and complaining about what's going on in Tallahassee or Sacramento or Washington, D.C. or wherever it is, right? So it's due largely, now not entirely, because families, parents, everybody has a role in this. We are all responsible for providing proper education for our youth. But it's due largely to our poor schools and our failed, if not just outright fraudulent education system.
Oh,
and
terrible.
I've got something for you on the education system that we'll discuss as we wind down through this information. Education system pushes preferred ideologies rather than sound teaching methodologies. That sounds like a tongue twister, but it's actually, think about it for a second, right? We talk all the time about how the education system is about indoctrination. And it is. It is. I was a school teacher for a couple of years. Trust me, it absolutely is. We do not teach critical thinking. We teach children what to think today.
Yes.
Our current education system, and they're not teaching them to think anything of benefit to them or to the system or to the republic. They're teaching them, actually a better way of saying that is that the education system teaches children what not to think. They go in there and tell you, nope, can't think that, can't say that, don't use those words, you can't have those views, those are bad, they're hurtful, they're mean. They're overly critical. They're overly simplistic. They're reductive, whatever. You've got a million excuses from intelligentsia and academia about why we can't think the things we should be thinking.
Right.
Now, we lament a lack of culture, and I say that with regard to the left and others. Oh, it's just not enough culture. We're not like your... But we don't teach a Renaissance education method anymore. We don't teach children... these questions that you heard when we were kids, why do I have to learn that? Why do I have to learn that? Because it's the idea that you need to learn a little bit of everything.
No, we're too busy erasing everything.
Your education should include a little philosophy, a little history, definitely include writing and proper grammar and math. And
we're screwed if the grid goes down. Most of our kids nowadays have no idea what cursive is.
Oh, good God, no.
And if we ever had to, you can hand someone a short sentence written in cursive, they'd look at it and go, "What's that mean? What is this? What's this gibberish?"
I try to explain to my kids that if you can't read cursive, if you can't understand the language written in its various forms, then you can be lied to. You can be told whatever someone else wants to tell you, and you have no independent methodology for verifying the veracity of that statement. We do not challenge excellent students anymore.
No, we don't.
Now, in the academies where the elites send their children, they're pushed and challenged and expected to perform, but they're also indoctrinated. Don't make any mistakes about that. They're being indoctrinated as well. But they're being indoctrinated to lead the sheep, not to be a sheep. In the public education system in general, our children, they are doing everything they can, not only to destroy them and help them and get them to help destroy the culture, they are creating sheep. No question about it. There's another one that's absolutely unequivocal. Anybody, I don't care, teacher, educator, whoever you are, whatever your opinion is, you're not going to tell me any different, because I look at it and I see what they tried to do to my kids. Okay.
Oh, even my kids were going through school even before yours, and the thing is, I still remember my middle daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. In high school.
Right.
She her junior year. And she's up in her bedroom one day, and I walked in, and here's all these magazines being clipped apart and everything, and she's got this board. I said, "Oh, you making a poster for your wall?" She says, "No, this is my school assignment." I said, "School assignment?" And it wasn't art or anything either. This was in like grammar or something like English or something like that. And I'm like, good God, for what? Well, it's a storyboard, and then we have to tell the story. I said, of what? She's clipping articles out of a magazine, using a glue stick and putting it on a board in high school.
Yeah.
11th grade high school. I'm like, yeah, there's...
You want to talk about a problem. I almost
work.
choked the first time my son informed me, my youngest, my son, he he tells me that he took this test and he got a D on it, right?
Okay.
Me, I'm not losing my mind. I'm like, okay, you got a D on a test. You do better, right? Oh, he goes, no, don't worry about it. I get to retake it.
Yeah, I don't get that one.
I go,
either.
what?
I don't get that one either.
Because if you get below a C, they let you retake it.
Yeah.
And you can get, now you can only go as
Because in
high
real
as
life, that works out well.
you can only go as high as a B on the retake. And I looked at him, I said, dude, you are in for a real shot.
Because I got news for you. In the real world, not this rose-colored glasses snowflake society that everybody's trying to live in. In the real world, if you perform at a D level at your job, I guarantee you won't have that job very long.
No.
And in most cases, if you have a C output, you won't be at that job very long.
So we don't challenge our excellent students, and we don't for a couple of simple reasons. And I'm saying this with all seriousness because I remember being chastised about this when I was a science teacher, okay, in middle school, where they let me know that no, oh, we're not going to use that kind of language, and it wasn't because I was cussing, it was because I was talking about pushing yourself, and okay. Because we don't want to harm the delicate psyches of our little snowflakes and our underperforming
God
students.
forbid we look at somebody and go, don't be average.
I have actually listened to news reports and read articles about things coming out of the National Education Association and the teachers' unions and the Department of Education instructing teachers not to use red ink anymore because red is harmful to the children's self-esteem.
Well, dude, in college they did have to have cry rooms when Trump won. So,
dude, let me tell you, okay, that just hold on to those little ideas because it's ridiculous.
I think we should just make like custom little boxes of tissues.
We're not creating opportunities for our kids anymore. We don't challenge kids and try to. Now, I'm going to say this. This is going to sound really harsh, okay? What the education system should be doing is pushing those kids, okay, and weeding out the chaff from the wheat. Now, people are going, oh, my God. No, listen, some kids, not because they are ignorant or stupid, not because they're bad, some kids are not motivated from an educational perspective. They are not interested in learning advanced subjects, and they're not interested in going to calculus and literature and other things. They don't want it, right? They're into cars. They're into houses. They're into craft projects. They want to work with their hands. They want to, so we no longer challenge our kids and find out who belongs in college and who doesn't. No, we lie to them now. We tell every kid, every kid's got to go to college. If you do not go to college, your life is ruined. BS. Absolutely false. Okay? And I got bills I've had to pay for getting things fixed around my house that prove it. Okay?
I'm proof of that.
Okay?
I'm proof of that. I went to college on a football scholarship.
That's right.
When I got injured and couldn't play football anymore, I left college. I was only there to play football. And guess what? I rose through the ranks. I reached corporate level.
Yep.
I was a senior project manager for a nationwide company, and I was responsible for millions upon millions of dollars of capital projects on an annual basis. And guess what? I performed and actually outperformed a lot of guys. I was dealing with contractors out of places like University of Florida and stuff. Didn't even know how to read a darn blueprint when I put it in front of them. I'm like, are you serious, dude?
But you got that job because you were competent and capable.
I applied
and a hard
myself,
worker.
and when I didn't know something, I dug in and I found the solution and the answers for it. Why? Because I paid attention on how to do research.
Yep. And so we don't nurture these kids. We don't challenge them. We don't teach them to excel, okay? But like I said, we want them all to go to college. Well, why? Why does every child have to go to college? You think it's for education?
No.
Wrong.
They want to go party
Not the
at
correct
the
answer. No.
fraternities.
We want every kid in college because the federal government now controls 100% of student loans. You cannot initiate a first-time student loan for a student through anybody but the federal government, right?
That's sad.
And so we do this because we want these kids, number one, we want them indoctrinated. We want them to go to the schools that they approve of, okay? We want the government tries as hard as it can to get its fingers into all of it. And we are putting these kids in debt for most of their early adulthood, some of them indefinitely, depending on whether they go for masters and everything else. But we're doing it. Now, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with if you're going to go to school to be a doctor or, an engineer, things like this, and you go get your loans, you'll get them paid back. You're going to end up in a field that you're going to make really good money. You're going to be fine, right? The guy who goes and takes the job working as a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, they would be able to pay loans, but they're not going to have any. They're not going to have any debt because they're working and making money while you're over there getting indoctrinated and preparing to pay back your student loans.
Pretty much.
Okay? It's the kids that go there to learn dead languages and women's studies and all the other, happy-go-lucky horse crap that the left wants to put into our universities. We're studying, non-gender, binary, whatever thingies. It's all nonsense, all right?
Well, actually, let's see. Career Addict says the 20 most useless degrees.
Oh, I can't wait. Go ahead. Let me hear a couple of them.
Well, they say culinary arts, but I disagree with that one, actually, because that's not really college. Culinary arts is you go to an actual, what we were going to reference to here in a few seconds, like a trade school.
Well, I think what they're saying, though, is getting a degree at a college in culinary arts is ridiculous.
Yeah. So, let's go to Ranker. Most useless college majors.
Okay.
Number 1, feminist theory.
There you
agree.
Go. Absolutely useless.
Number 2, gender studies. Yep. If you don't know the difference in genders, you got a problem. Disruption. What the hell is disruption?
Those are ANTIFA members.
Peace studies.
Yeah.
African American studies.
Yep.
French food. Literally, they got one just for French food.
Whatever, man.
Golf management.
Ugh.
Renaissance study. The best one I heard, and it's for all these athletes that I'm still amazed the amount of athletes that can't read coming out of college. What is it? Sports entertainment management. I'm like, what the heck degree is that? It goes on, though, ancient Greek, dance, art history, theater arts, fine art. I mean,
the first few that you mentioned on there, the only thing that qualifies you to do, two things that those first few degrees qualify you to do, the feminist studies and all that other stuff.
Yep.
1, work in an HR department and ruin people's careers.
Yep.
2, work in government and ruin people's lives.
And go to HR and ruin people.
That's it. That's what
winemaking is at 22 for college degrees. Yeah,
but the truth is, all of those things you learn as an apprentice working for someone who's an expert at it.
Yes.
You're going to do wine studies. You're going to run restaurants. You're going to cook. You don't learn that in a college. You go to work for a world-class professional, and you learn from them.
And that's the thing. I mean, I was going to say when we're talking about the trade schools. Trade schools, thing of the past. I mean, the actual working with hands is like becoming a dead art. People, carpenters, people that work on ACs and other things.
Well, that's like,
no one's going to this stuff.
That's like work. Man.
Yeah, I know. I know. I've had some in the modern society go, yeah, I'm new school. I don't believe in that old school busting your hump to make a living.
Good for you.
Well, good luck in society.
Now. So we put them in debt, right? And we give them these useless degree programs and everything. Why? And you have to ask yourself, look, you should be asking yourself at every juncture that you encounter things in your life day to day, you ought to be asking yourself all the time, why? What's the purpose? Who's benefiting? What is it? Cui bono? Who benefits? Right?
Yeah.
The truth is that the system doesn't want educated citizens qualified to analyze the world around them, to make critical decisions about government, economics, international relations, or life in general. Now, they want some of that stuff in the elites. They don't want you knowing any of that. They don't want you being able to sit down at a table in the local tavern, as the founders used to do, have a discussion with your friends and family and what have you, and have cogent, intelligible discussions about those issues. They don't want you to understand how to handle your own finances. They don't want you to understand how to keep yourself out of debt. They don't want you to do these things because all of those things remove your dependence on an overlord. If you can take care of yourself, if you can live independently with personal responsibility, which, by the way, they badmouth at every turn is, every time a conservative says personal responsibility, what they mean is you need to be thrown out in the streets and starve. No, it means being able to take care of yourself.
Yep.
Being able to balance your accounts, to look at your funds and understand, well, I only bring in X amount of dollars. I guess I shouldn't spend too much.
And tying into it, in all seriousness, tying into those college degrees and everything like that and everything. All right, if you decide, I want to go into architectural, like architecture, because everybody's thinking, it's a big moneymaker.
Yeah.
Not all of them. So you've got an over-inundated market, and you got a 13.9% unemployment rate for architectures coming out of grad school. Do you know what they make on average? These people that go, I'm going to make the big bucks, $36,000 a year.
That's right.
$36,000 a year.
Do you know what I've heard more than anything, Sean? Do you know what I hear people bitch more than anything? Okay, and it's not the cops and the firefighters. You know what firefighters in particular do for what money they make? You know what they do? Now, you're talking about people that work
on the line.
Well, but wait a second. You're talking about people that work. I don't know exactly. Is it 12-hour or 24? The 2-day shifts or whatever they go in.
They work 2 on and usually get like 1 or 2 or 3 off or something like that. Yeah.
All the firefighters that are related to my wife up in Rochester when we lived there, you know what they all do? They all work extra jobs.
Of course they do.
Every firefighter I've ever met, he's either got a job as a carpenter, a mason, and do tile work.
My buddy down in Sarasota, Dan, has our last name. Dan down there.
Yeah.
He's a fire chief. And guess what? He's got other jobs.
Other jobs. Now,
he's got other jobs.
I do not take this wrong. I'm not just outright knocking teachers. I don't want anybody getting the impression that I don't like teachers. That's not true. They're valuable if they're good teachers. Now, if they're slackers who just want to have all that time off and collect their pay and jerk around and not actually educate, that's a problem.
Once again, teachers coming out, 5.4% unemployment rate in the education field. Average median income for them to start, $33,000 a year.
Right.
It's not enough to get by on, folks.
Well, but they come out and then they gripe, but I've got all these loans, everything, and I can't on this pay, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Look, folks, number one, a lot of these people, at least initially, the younger teachers, they get started because they're like, oh, this is awesome. You mean I get summers off and I get all this extra time, all these holidays and everything? Then, and the bad ones are the ones that gripe and complain every step of the way because they've got to do their teachers' planning and they've got to get their education plans ready and the activities and all the stuff they're supposed to do to motivate their students, because really good teachers don't stop when the school day ends.
No.
They're planning and working and they're looking, okay, Johnny's not quite motivated enough. What do I have to do to get him to grasp this information?
But a lot of those teachers now, I know my other buddy that was a teacher. He's been a teacher pretty much his whole life. He followed in his dad's footsteps.
Yes.
He'd even said, and this was years ago, and he's still a teacher this day, but he takes on, because I guess they get extra pay if they take on summer school.
Sure.
And private tutoring stuff. So that's how he made his extra, by tutoring, taking a... He didn't just work those 8 months a year and got the rest of the time.
And probably worked his butt off during the summer instead of just
his
vacation.
butt off.
Yes.
You betcha.
So my thing is here, though, you get all these teachers, right, and they settle in and they're teaching, and then all they do is gripe and complain about the money.
Yep.
They gripe and complain about the money. And I'll go into a little of this. I've got a couple of notes here in a few minutes, but we want indebted, subordinate automatons. Let me go back in time for a second real quick, because we're going to move in now to a couple other things besides just education. Everybody knows who Rockefeller was, right?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, and I only know that because our parents used to say our last name's Rankin, not Rockefeller.
That's right. Rockefeller had a quote. He created something called the General Education Board. He did this in 1903. John D. Rockefeller founded the General Education Board, right? In 1903, folks, I want you to think of the money we talk about nowadays. In 1903, the cost of the General Education Board was about $129 million.
Woo!
Now, this was not the Board of Education.
No.
This was a separate entity he created, all right? Now, do you know what Mr. Rockefeller said about education? One of his famous quotes?
What he said?
He said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Okay? Now, he got himself in bed with this fellow named Frederick T. Gates. Now, there are accusations that he is somehow related to Bill Gates. I don't see anything about it. I don't have time to go down that rabbit hole either. Mr. Gates, however, I'm going to read you a little statement of his, right? This guy was something. What was the name of this group that he was, or this belief system he was really big into? Was I'll have to find it sometime. I apologize. I didn't make a note of it because it just kind of went by. But this is his quote, and Buzz is going to hate me because this was a little bit more than just a couple of words. In our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. The present educational conventions fade from our minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive rural folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or of science. We are not to raise up among them authors, orators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor will we cherish even the humble ambition to raise up from among them lawyers, doctors, preachers, statesmen, of whom we now have ample supply. Now, that's a gentleman that was an advisor on philanthropy and other issues to John Rockefeller, and who got involved with this education, the General Education Board. This is the horizon of compulsory education in the United States. And believe me, there's lots to say, because when you go through this, right, in pre-1840, literacy rates, high schools, predominantly private and locally controlled, okay, Americans were well educated and literacy rates were high. In 1852, Massachusetts passed its first mandatory attendance law. And in 1902, John Rockefeller creates the General Education Board. Sorry, I said 1903. 1902.
Get it straight, man.
I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
In 1905, Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching's founded. All right. 1906, the National Education Association becomes a federally chartered association. 1913, Frederick T. Gates, director of charity for the Rockefeller Foundation, writes In Our Dream, what I just read to you. Okay. 1914, the National Education Association, alarmed by the activity of the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations. In 1917, the NEA reorganizes and moves to Washington, D.C. Okay, I'm not going through the whole thing. I wanted you to note, though, this is the horizon. This is the beginning, the event horizon for compulsory education, nationally run education, every student into it. And you hear the people that founded this. I don't want thinkers. I'm not looking to create large. I want workers. I want people who are docile, who will listen to do what they're told to do, be indoctrinated, and be there to provide my world with plenty of workers and resources. Now, that's me paraphrasing at the end, but that's what they're saying, folks. That is the system that we still deal with today, and it's worse today than it was in the early 1900s at the turn of the century. The last century, by the way, obviously. That is horrific. That's what we submit our children to, okay? Buzz, I don't think I'm going to make it through everything. Let me see what I'm doing here.
I don't think you are either.
I've still got a whole thing of those pages we've only been through.
Because you got about 10 minutes, man.
Yeah. So let's go here.
I was just going to wait till you got down to that 5-minute mark and do one of these, but you know, there's no
I'm
fun
looking
in that.
at it. So I guess I can kind of start with the first part. You know what? Hold on.
All right, let's hold on.
Hold on. Let's go to this. I'm going to skip the first part of that, which I'll bring back later. Okay, let's talk about some numbers real quick while we're going over that. Let me ask you a question. And I know we're pre-recorded, but I want you to think about this while you're listening to this show after you get the recording. If you hired a company to remodel your home, Buzz,
okay,
and they started remodeling it in January, you would expect a reasonable time frame for that project to be completed, right? So let's say that the contractor promises you they're going to finish it by March 31st, so it's going to take 3 months to do this remodel.
Okay.
And they're going to complete the work for $75,000.
Okay.
So you've already got a contract, you got a deal, you're going to pay $75,000 for this. Now, let's say the contractor comes to you at the end of February and lets you know, well, we've had some problems, workers had some problems at home, and we're a little behind schedule, and work is really slow, but if you give us an additional $25,000, we can complete the project by the end of April.
No.
Now, question. How many of you would agree to that?
No.
Okay? How many of you would question
I'm the wrong
it?
person to ask that question because I still deal with contractors on a daily basis. Now, knowing that it does take longer time right now because of supplies and everything, sure, I get that. But saying you could do it faster if you give me more money, no.
Well, and how many of you would fire your contractor if he didn't meet the contract and get your work done for the agreed price, right? Folks, I use that example as sort of hyperbole to make a point. We've been doing that same dance with our local, county, state, and federal agencies for over a century. That dance goes on every day in the halls of power, whether it be in your local community, your county, your state, right? Doesn't matter. That's going on every day. Some contractor agrees to do a government project. Some teachers union agrees to something. Somebody road contracts. How many times do we have overruns and problems on these? DOT transportation contracts. Okay? Every single day it's happening all over the country in numerous places, and it is sapping the energy from the economy. It saps the energy in a million different ways. Economically, personally, motivationally, spiritually, all of it. The government keeps telling us they're going to deliver on something, and they don't deliver on it. And then what do when they don't deliver on it? They come to us and they go, hey, we're going to need some more money.
Yep.
We're going to need some more resources. We're going to need a few more agencies here to take care of this. Okay? I'm going to go back and make a statement that again, may shock a few of my contemporaries and a few of my buddies and my colleagues. I'm going to say this. I was right out front with, unfortunately, I regret it. I was right out front there with George Bush and the rest of the Hawks after 9/11, calling for the Department of Homeland Security and the Patriot Act and all that kind of stuff. The truth is, it is a fundamental responsibility of the federal government under the Constitution to protect us from foreign invasions, to protect us from the sort of thing that went on 9/11. It is their responsibility. Pure and simple, they failed. They failed to do the job that we entrusted them with because they spent too much time doing social engineering, mucking around with our lives, taxing the ever-living dog crap out of us, taking everything that they could out of the economy so they could spend it and pat each other on the back at dinners and talk about what great things they were doing for the LGBTQ community and this community and that group and this special interest, all right? For what corporate groups they were in bed with, for whatever state grants they were providing to indoctrinate our children with twerking and transgender story hour and whatever else they're running. Excuse me. So they failed at their job. And what did they do? Same dance, came to us. Hey, we're going to need a new agency to coordinate all this information. It's going to cost tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, or maybe even billions of dollars to get it all done. And we're going to need you to go along with that because it's for your good, because it's so we can protect you. No, it wasn't. It was so they could spy on us. Okay? They already had the NSA and everything else going, but now the Department of Homeland Security will start unifying things. Now we find out the FBI is politicized. They're using them to come after us when we speak up at the school board meetings, when we disagree with the party line on how things are supposed to go, right? If we step out of line and say something they don't like, oh, you must be a domestic terrorist. We're going to have to look into your past and your social media. So that's how they do it. Now, the education system doesn't perform at all. Not on any metric does the education system perform, except for homeschooling and certain private institutions where you get some performance. I have no idea where that came from. It might have been my...
I think it's yours.
Is it mine?
Yeah,
I'll do this little number right here, and then we won't have
That's
any more
like
of
the
that.
fourth time.
I'm sorry. You should have said to me. I don't. That's the first time I heard it. Anyway.
Okay.
The education system doesn't work. Period. It doesn't work. It's not educating our children. It's indoctrinating them. It's not challenging them. It's not making them strive for excellence. To be fair, many parents in our society are not challenging their children to strive for excellence either. We're failing the future, or we've already failed the future. Okay? Now they tell us about all the districts and localities they have to deal with. They got hundreds. We need more money. We don't. The bad schools. And always what they tell you. Always what they tell you is, well, the poor school districts. Folks, The rich school districts aren't doing any better. They're all full of crap. They're not educating your children. I lived in a very nice neighborhood, okay, and they were only marginally better than the inner city on the school performance as a whole. So I don't want to hear it, right? Yeah, some of the grades were a little higher, but the kids aren't getting educated any better. It's just really not happening. So they've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of local administrators, tens of millions of parents all across the country who should be in charge of those systems, okay? And those people know what those kids need. They know what that district needs. They know what the special needs kids and the excellent kids need if they're good teachers. The parents should know it, but they're not working together anymore. There's no cooperation going on between the parents and the school districts, okay? Now, spending on education since the beginning of the Great Society in 1965 has amounted to over $2 trillion.
Wow.
On education alone. I'm not even going to get into the welfare because that's part of the other discussion I was going to have. $2 trillion. I know because I looked at it not too long ago. I forget exactly when it was, Buzz, but we average in excess of $10,000 per student across the board in public education. Do you know that if the government had given me a credit for $10,000 a year for each of my children, do you know what kind of education I could have put my kids through?
Not any of us.
At $10,000 a year. Do you know what parents in the inner city could do for their children if they had 10? But who fights that at every turn when we talk about vouchers for school and school choice? Who fights it? Government. That we can't do that. So, just to wrap up here, we'll put a pin in it for more stuff coming up next week. The simple truth is we're dancing with the government, and we're losing. We're losing at every turn. Forget the election nonsense. We're losing that too. But you know what? It's already dying at every other level because we're losing locally. Our kids aren't being educated. We're not getting what we're supposed to be getting. They're taking too much from us. You know, the school board wants it. The local community wants it. They want more property taxes, more school taxes. They're going to tax you for luxuries. They're paying sales tax and everything else you're doing. The government's getting theirs. They're getting theirs, and then you're left holding the bag looking at it going, what the hell is going on? I don't have enough money to do the things I need to do for my family. Right. So think about that. We'll go further with more stuff next week and moving forward. Okay, we'll finish Article 1, Section 2. We'll get into that. That's what I got for this week, and it's I'm not even finished with it. There's so much stuff on this.
Well, that's the thing. Patriot is very notorious for having too much information.
Yeah.
Should be like 2 or 3 shows. And what you need to do next week, we just continue on this. You don't have to do a lot of research.
I want to finish this up.
I'll have something new for you.
Next week we'll talk about the welfare system because the payoff at the end of this is a further discussion that goes right back to that statement we made about getting into these politicians' faces and making people be accountable for the things they've said and the things they promised that they're not doing, for the responsibilities and their oath to the Constitution that they're not fulfilling.
Awesome. That's always a good thing. Well, and with that, that's our shout-outs time. There we go. So our shout-outs this week, actually, you know what, multiple shout-outs, because a lot happened over the Thanksgiving holidays and everything.
Yep.
I'm going to give a shout-out. Remember I said I want to give shout-outs to people doing good. Several NFL teams across the United States. Buccaneers come to mind because they do it every year. They run turkey drives, giving out food to people that couldn't afford it this year. So
awesome.
Huge shout out to all of those active NFL players that went out into the public, that loaded up cars with goods, with turkey and cranberries and all the goods, so that those that couldn't afford had a good meal. Big shout out, just reading through headlines and browsing through, a lot of bad fires, especially the one in Mystic, Connecticut.
Wow.
4-alarm fire that was up there, destroyed some historic area. As of right now, no one's been reported as hurt, so huge shout-out to the firefighters that had to battle that. There was one at the Phantom Firework down here in Florida.
Really?
Big fire down here, yep. So huge, so really big shout-out to our firefighters, who over the holidays, because of the cold and everything else, there were fires in apartment complexes, personal houses, in business districts, everything, putting their lives on the line every time they go out there, because fire is very, very unpredictable. And these men and women, they go out there, and every time that they're at one of these things, something bad can happen. So God bless you guys. Thank you all for what you do. As always, we're going to give a shout out to all of our military, both here and overseas, and their families. God bless. Yes. God bless the families. Our prayers go out to all of you all for just supporting your loved ones that go out there and fight for the freedom of the great country of the United States.
And this time of year is particularly difficult on them, the cops, the firefighters, because they end up spending time away from the family and all that. And I know some people think that's not a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It is a big deal. It is a big deal. And I think that's just one of those things that those of us that don't have to do it, those of us that aren't involved, you take it for granted. You've got that loved one right there every day. So hug them a little bit more, say thanks a little bit more. Like I always challenge y'all to do. You're out in public, you see a firefighter, you see a police officer, a paramedic, a veteran, military. Hey, buy them a coffee, a soda, something. Just give them a pat, a handshake, say thanks for what you do. Most of them are almost all of them are very gracious. A lot of them are humble. They'll be like, oh, please don't, but do it, man. Buy them a breakfast sandwich or a lunch or something like that. Do it. It goes a long way.
Yeah.
Humanity, people. Humanity.
Do it.
Website, remind you one last time, head on over to GaragePolitics.com or .net either, or I don't know why I always say it anymore.
I'll post the Thanksgiving video when I post this week's video as well. You deserve to see it. We made it.
Late.
It's there.
It's late. It's late.
I know it's late, but I'll put it up this week. I'm sorry.
So, and if you're curious what we used to sound like before visual, you can head over to the archives there and check out some of the old stuff. There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, well, actually, I got things to focus on first. I can't get to it right now. They're on our Garage Politics website, right? Mm-hmm. We already have a separate website that I'll do after I get a couple of other things done called GP Radio.
Aha.
And that's coming. Eventually, that website will house all of the old radio shows and songs and everything.
Sweet. Sounds good. But until that point, we're going to sign off here at the garage. I'm Buzz Rankin.
I'm the Common Patriot.
And we'll see you next week in the garage.